Hi, I'm Kim Kong, a co-founder of Toshiba.
And I'm Sharon McManamy Khan, the other founder.
And we couldn't decide who was going to go first, but promise you with the rest of the stuff we know what we're talking about. So we're talking about international movement in the age of Trump presidency. And this comes on the heels of Brexit, which we did an earlier broadcast on how that'll affect international movement, immigration, international assignments. So it was a big surprise to every pollster, probably to a lot of the nation, that Trump is now the president-elect. And, there are a lot of policies that he has kind of posited in his campaign trail that would affect you if you were going to move abroad or going to move to the United States to work.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically gotten elected in the same way that the Brexiteers got elected. A little bit of backlash against the changes in the world and a lurch towards protectionism, which has come out sometimes in a nasty way, which has been a little bit racist and a little bit violent, which is not a good thing for us to have done, but here we are, and it's done now, so we have to figure out how we can manage our interaction with President Trump's administration and the policies that he's going to put in place to govern and interact with the rest of the world.
I mean, I think, as you say, with the Brexit vote and the Trump election, there is a strong anti-globalization movement now. And how that is going to really mesh with what is a global world is going to be very, very interesting to find out and cause a lot of rumblings, because there's many big, strong countries pushing still for globalization. There's still a European Union that's committed to European ideal. There's still China that wants to, reach out and be a global powerhouse. And other countries that really depend on globalization for their, exporting survival. So this is, there's going to be a lot of friction between those two ideas, and how it gets resolved is going to take a lot of intense diplomacy, which is the one thing that I think is the biggest concern. Let's just talk really just about what's in the news
right
just now with Donald Trump taking a congratulatory phone call from the leader of Taiwan.
Right. And this is some place you can maybe look to for some kind of presumption or of what he's actually going to be like as a president. So, it looks like he's going to be hands-on when it comes to his reputation, which I think is sort of a legacy of his background, that a lot of people in television get very concerned about what the media says, their reputation, and in general, the president's not normally concerned because the president is making the news, not being reported. Now he's become a newsmaker, not an entertainer. So that's going to be a very big transition for him. I think the other cue that you can possibly take from this is that there's going to be a resurgence in... I think he's not afraid of a fight, which is genuinely a good thing, but also these are big fights. This is not, I'm going to look a little wimpy, this is people's lives are on the line, and around the world, all the things that we've tried to build could be disrupted. So his conversation with Taiwan, kind of everybody's wondering what does it signal about how he's going to govern. Is he going to, put more bases, troops in Taiwan, and how will China react to that? The Chinese leaders are not wimps either, so it's really a question of how confrontational do you get with another country, and how far that goes, and what the purpose of your confrontation with another country is.
Right, and his kind of response to that is, hey, it's just a phone call. And he's treating it with the same, kind of thing. He seems to actually put more thought into his tweets against Saturday Night Live, which he insists on watching every Saturday, even though he keeps saying that it's unwatchable. But apparently not for him.
You can switch it off. There's enough buttons.
And you're the president-elect. So. But, the thing is that it does matter, because this was a deal that was brokered by Kissinger and Nixon to open up China.
Right.
saying that Taiwan would not be recognized.
Right.
Now, is he going to expect other leaders that are our allies to recognize Taiwan at the expense of their relationship with China? How much is China going to posture? These are very big questions, and I think it leads to, if you're on an international assignment, these are things that, you are going to have to pay attention to, including the Donald Trump's tweets. And if you're not following Donald Trump on Twitter, you may not know where your job is going.
Well, I mean, that's exactly right, and I can attest to the fact that public opinion can have a very big impact on your international assignment. When a president is in that's liked by the country you're in, you will be welcome, and no one will pick a fight with you in whichever form they think that they should. And, that will make a very big difference to how your life experience is when you're living abroad. I know when I was studying in the UK, living in the States, that the Iraq War was on, and there was a really big backlash in the UK against the leader there at the time, which was Tony Blair, and the Bush administration. So essentially I was persona non grata. And I was born there, so that was an extraordinary kind of thing. Like, why are you treating me like this? I'm British,
yeah,
right?
I didn't start the Iraq War.
Yeah, and I can't stop it, honestly. I would have thought it was a really bad idea to go into Iraq when who we wanted was Bin Laden, but I couldn't stop it then. I couldn't be held accountable for it on the other side of the world either. But people have their frustrations, and they find a way to express them.
Right.
So, personal safety is an issue if you're abroad with an administration or in a country that disagrees with what your country is. And it really, it's not me, it's them. No, it won't work. You're going to have some personal plans for your safety. And there are companies out there who specialize in protection. So if it's really gets to that level, then you need to have your organization make sure that you're safe and that there's a way for you to be evacuated.
Right. Definitely. I mean, it's an alternate plan. And if you're talking to your company about what provisions are going to have for you when you move abroad, saying like, what if we have to leave quickly?
Right.
Where is this thing?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why corporate housing might be a much better option than you finding your own place, even though it might be not as nice.
Right.
But you won't be on the hook for a lease.
Or buying, so then you have to abandon your property.
Right, yeah, and sell it.
Country,
exactly.
It's been reclaimed.
Right.
Because who wants that?
And I mean, in many ways, it's interesting because, I mean, I'm not really sure how, I was sure how the rest of the world felt about George W. Bush.
Right.
And because, and maybe it'll take up, but I think maybe it'll take, if Trump starts a war, then we'll know what the international community thinks of him. But now I think it's still up in the air, even though he's said a lot of ridiculous things, frankly, on the campaign trail, that, and very offensive things to many people, that he's still got this TV star quality of wanting to be liked. Mm-hmm. Which is why he gets irked by the parodies of him and things like that.
Right.
But he also wants to be the tough guy who says
Right.
it's America, my way or the highway, kind of thing. And that doesn't. It's very hard to pull off.
Yeah.
As in both respects, and without a compliant media, which I hope we don't have.
Right.
And the rest of the world certainly won't.
No, I mean, and people will score points against him at home by just being in defiance of the US. Obviously, if he's very hawkish, then people will see their opportunity to represent their country by just basically taking a swipe at him and us. So it's not a straightforward situation.
Yeah.
I think it's a very big foreign policy change from the Obama administration, who had their lead from behind scenarios, and I think just generally more collegiate style of relationships between the world leaders than I think Donald Trump is going to have. So I think you're going to see changes in how countries are responding to the US as well. I think that kind of had, because Hillary Clinton was so well known and because she's been a great Secretary of State, then I think a lot of countries thought, well, we know exactly what should
Yeah,
expect.
right, and they were prepared for that.
Right, and pretty much, I think everybody in the world, well, I mean, a lot of people after Donald Trump, I thought he had a shot because I see a different side of America than maybe some of these elite politicians have seen. So I thought, yeah, he's got a shot. I, wasn't pleased with the outcome, but I also understand why people would vote for him in comparison to a, well-heeled traditional politician who looks as establishment as it gets. Really,
and a legacy. I mean, I think you saw that in the Republican primary. I mean, with Jeb Bush,
right?
Who got absolutely nowhere, and everybody thought he would be the instant front runner.
Yeah, and then we're all like, "Bring back Jeb."
Yeah,
We're sorry.
yeah.
We didn't mean it.
All is forgiven.
Where's Jeb?
It's like,
It's okay. We can add Jeb.
no, you made your choice.
Right? Well, yeah. Are you sure?
Also, I guess many of our viewers, I'm assuming, are young people, youngsters, maybe in their 20s, looking to go abroad for the first time or work abroad, and won't remember what it was like during the Cold War.
Right.
And that was something that was very interesting for international assignments because, in many ways, taking people in and out of the country was a way, or expelling them was a way of diplomatic posturing.
Right.
So let's say you don't have to be working for the State Department. You could be on a project that's contracted to help out a part of the government, and then there's a dispute, and they say, okay, your contract is suspended.
Right.
What do? You prepare to go back. So I mean, having making sure that you have a contingency plan again, maybe keeping a residence in the U.S. if you're moving from the U.S. or from your home country.
Yeah, wherever your home country is.
Because I mean, these are things that are going to actually heat up, and I think rhetoric is only going to get worse. I mean, the nominee to be ambassador of the UN for the U.S. has no international experience whatsoever.
Right.
She was just
loyalty.
Yeah,
and
a governor.
What the Republicans are saying they want.
Right.
They want the loyalists rewarded,
right.
Which we're seeing some, but we're not seeing obviously with the Goldman Sachs appointment a loyalist. We're seeing an economic czar, a traditional economic czar.
And again, that makes it what the Chinese would call interesting times, and you never live in them. Because I think even people were outraged by John Bolton being UN ambassador because he hated the UN.
Right.
But people knew what they were dealing with. I mean, they knew he had published plenty of things on what his foreign policy was.
Right.
All they had to do was watch out for him throwing a shoe at them in the hall, and they were okay.
Duck.
Yeah, which he actually did a couple of times. I think
duck.
It was his weapon of choice.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You
anyway,
use your words, right?
I think it was out of words at that point. I don't want the shoe do the talking for me.
That's funny.
But yeah,
the thing I was gonna say. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that a lot of the people that in the past, I guess almost back to the Reagan administration, everybody was aware of their policy because they had published, or their policy wonks, or they had worked at think tanks, and they'd come out on TV shows, they'd be on the Welcome Group or Meet the Press, or and so this is a lot of people with no government experience, no policy experience, who maybe are saying, well, once I'm in the White House, we'll see how I feel and see how we can do this.
Right, and I mean, for the tone of a nation, this is something that's, if you ever move countries, it's something that you will see quite clearly, is that each nation has a character and a tone, and it is based in their leadership very strongly. Not just because people want success and then pleasing a leader, which is always a part of it, but also because everyone's involved, like the entire nation is involved. So you can see just now a whole change in the way America's conducting itself, right? There are kids crying in college, there are, outbursts from artists everywhere, how they feel about this, and even the political community in DC, they're saying, oh, we don't think much will change, but he's their commander-in-chief. When he says do it, you're going to have to do it at some point.
Yeah.
And how much you're prepared to sacrifice, first your job, your reputation, these kinds of things. So, I mean, I think that's an unrealistic message from the political community, and I think they live inside a very different world than the rest of America experiences.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I would be cautious about being reassured that President Trump will be, pretty much in line with American policy, because I don't think he either has to conform.
Or really feels that he was elected to conform.
Right, and I mean, he might say that that's not what I think. So, I mean, he's got supporters who are now gloating
Hmm.
that, we were forced to be so politically correct, so, conscientious or collegiate, and we didn't want to do any of those things. And so now we've been proved right, and so now they're going to use the mechanism, this federal government to put in place the America they want to see. Or America to do abroad what they want to see it do.
Which brings us to a very good topic next, which is visas.
Yeah.
And, that is going to change. I mean, let's start first of all with, there's the proposal just to ban all Muslims from entering the country.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously unconstitutional, also impractical to implement, because, I mean, unless you...
I think the story was, you can tell by looking at them.
Yeah.
Are you sure? What? I don't have to look at someone and tell what their religion is. I'm really unclear.
Yeah.
How it would do that, and it's not. It's not true that all people would practice the faith, and then they just make us more insecure, I think, by making it based on the way we look. How easy is that to change? Mm-hmm. I can dye my hair, you can shave your beard. Anyone who wanted to bypass that particularly ridiculous judgment system could easily understand and change it. So I'm not sure that that's how we'll be safer.
But that policy has now changed to extreme vetting from certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
And in certain areas where there's known to be terrorism, which includes the United Kingdom, where there's been terrorist attacks, and
Ireland.
I mean, it's not just limited
all around the world.
To the Middle East.
Right.
But I'd say that at the very least, expect a much longer wait for a visa. I mean, that is what it's going to be. And that's what happened after 9/11.
Right. The Patriot Act, when it came in, because of the transfer of powers from one department to another, the wait for a visa just became...
Yeah, basically the INS...
anyone they were concerned about.
Well, not even concerned about. The INS gave over all their files to the FBI, and the FBI had to start over from the beginning.
Right.
So, and redo all the coverage. So, I mean, even that, any change in these policies is going to have a ripple effect.
Right.
And, Britain's very concerned about student visas, so those are going to go sharply down.
Right.
I think that the U.S. in itself is going to be concentrating on H-1B visas, because it's going to be a lot of people from South Asia who work in the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that another thing you're going to have to worry about if you're looking to move abroad is what I call, passive-aggressive immigration policy, which is they'll just make it too onerous for a business to sponsor you.
Right.
And then if it takes 6 months of paperwork,
they'll
take someone who's not as qualified,
right,
and is already there and has either citizenship or a green card.
I think it's very interesting to see how it's played out. I mean, if we want to see if there's any kind of blueprint for the U.S., is that there will emerge a leader on the left who will basically at some point essentially put down what they see as a negative policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's what Britain's searching for, a leader on the left. And here I think we need a leader on the left. I like Hillary, but I also think that she's such a hard time appealing to the other side that it's almost impossible for her. So I think everyone's looking right now. Mm-hmm. The other thing you saw in Britain was when everyone voted for Brexit, which is kind of how Donald Trump has seen himself, brand Mr. Brexit for Farage. What you see now in the UK is that they've redefined how they use immigration. So what they've done is they've gone regionally. So if you wanted to work in Manchester, and a Manchester company can convince the regional authorities that you're the person they want, then you can move there and you're entitled to buy a home. London's the same. Other regional areas are looking at still remaining in the EU. So basically, the nationalists have managed to fracture a nation. I'm not clear that that's your idea. And so if that comes here, then it'll be another layer of federalism, but it'll also create the same as before. You know, it's not going to be as straightforward, I think, as the nationalists felt, that this means it's only going to be British people. Well, it's still not now. It's just going to be rich people from around the world, which they might think is to their advantage, but I'm actually not so sure that general immigration into the population isn't actually better than just having superstars come
Right.
into your country. So that's something I think about, you know, as a founder of this. How does my company play into a larger community of migration? What does that migration mean for me? Like, I support refugees to be resettled because I feel like there's some kinship and also a path to entrepreneurial success, economic growth in a country that's the same for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm in this with everybody who migrates, regardless of their experience. But traditionally, economic migration is still the biggest driver.
Absolutely. And poor Nigel Farage says he can no longer pub crawl because after Trump's victory, because people are too mean to him. And I guess he must have been greatly surprised to find that immigrants also drink in pubs. And if you'd spent any time around the city of London and West London, South London, when I was there, he would have been able to find that out really easily.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Just ask the staff of the Punch.
Exactly.
Oh, another thing about visas. There's going to be some, kind of back and forth as well. If, more stringent the visa requirements become in the U.S.,
mm-hmm.
the more stringent they'll become in that country.
Right.
For U.S. citizens.
There'll be retaliation. Expect retaliation.
Yeah, so there's a lot of countries who get a visa way before come from the U.S. now that you won't be able to. So get ready to spend a day in line at a consulate or an embassy to get your visa and pay and shell out $100 for it.
Also think about this is that other countries have different ideas on what you do and whether it's a good thing. So when we were both working as journalists in London, we wanted to go to India. Stood in line and get your visa in a day line.
Yeah.
That was all fine. Did all the paperwork and everything, but actually we didn't get our visa in a day because of our profession.
Yeah. And because of my last name, I think.
Well, probably, yeah. So that's another thing for you to consider is how these countries view what you do and how their political or religious climates affect their judgment based on whether or not they want you to come to their country or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you experience that as soon as you try to live and work abroad. It's just one of the barriers.
Right.
And so, a lot of people choose different countries. A lot of people are successful. But if you go into a country that's hostile to you, then just be aware that there are ways to deal with that, and you should be conscious and capable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, make sure you've got the capabilities to do that.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk about with the visa situation is the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership is documented visa details for each of the people who go in. So, for example, Japan has a special category where if you come, you can bring your assistant with you, and they get a visa on your visa, which is not normally how it works in other countries, but apparently Japan's traditions must mean that this is extremely important to the people or people who've lobbied for them. So one of the things about being able to get to do business abroad is that it was clear what would happen through the visa system with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It wasn't so much based in the, help me out here, I've forgotten the word, in the country's democracy, not in the country, bureaucracy. That's the word I was thinking.
Okay.
So it's not as bureaucratic. So, I mean, that's one of the things that stops economic growth, because if you can't guarantee that you can get a visa, how can you go and open a branch or company somewhere? I mean, you're going to want to see how it's run. You're going to want to bring people you trust to make judgments.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was something that was very positive about TPP, and I was glad to see that, because then, you could just point to it and say, well, these are the rules. We've all agreed on it. There's some way for the international community to put pressure on each other
Right.
to adhere to those rules. So that, yeah, we've said that we're going to do this, so it should be possible for you to choose a country to operate in without worrying about how your visa applications are going to go, if you're going to get rejected, and basically being unable to do business there because of that situation.
Hmm.
So I think we've covered pretty much.
Yeah, a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and a lot more interesting things are going to happen soon that we'll be
Right.
on top of.
Mhm.
And I think the next thing to watch out for is Trump's pick of Secretary of State,
Right.
which should indicate a lot about foreign relations and which countries are going to be affected with international assignments.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be a great thing to just concern yourself with.
Yep.
Or maybe look up your embassy.
And keep watching for our Nomad notes.
Right, we're going to do probably a few more Nomad notes, maybe link to this and put them up on doshibu.tv.
Yep.
This will be on the top, so head on over there. It's got all the Brexit stuff just now, but once we have all of our notes and broadcasts put together, then we'll build a knowledge page for you.
Right,
So you can
and
go and check it out.
to contact us, and also make sure to check out our e-learning site.
Right.
And, we've got some great online content there for people who are looking to move abroad.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.